Hey, welcome to Managing Money Made Easy by me, Karen G. Adams, your financial coach and mentor from Financial Management 101. Great to have you here. So as you know, I'm here to help you take control of your money, build financial muscle, and of course, make financial decisions, smarter ones, that's for sure. I have a special guest today, Caroline Armstrong from Teamworks, and I'm so excited to have her here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get Caroline to give us a bit of an intro and explain her business because it is super exciting. Hello, Caroline, and welcome.
Hi, Karen. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. Absolute pleasure to be
Well,
here.
it's a pleasure to have you here, Caroline. And I know we're going to talk so much, so I have a feeling that there's going to be so much jam-packed content just because you're a superstar in what you know
Thanks,
about
Karen.
businesses. So,
So I'm a small business consultant, and I kind of came into this by accident. It was more, I sold my business, and my friends were like, "Oh, Caroline, you know that thing you did for your business? Can you help us do it for ours?" And so it kind of came from that, and it really took root over the COVID pandemic when I had a lot of time to create content, think about things, and really be able to serve people. So basically all I do, Karen, is I just help owners stuck in that messy middle between their brilliant idea and the company that gives them the lifestyle, money, and freedom that they want.
I
So
love
that's
it.
kind of what I do. I help them with
So,
their teams and all that sort of thing.
and what do you class as that messy middle? What do you
Yeah,
see that
so
is?
it's kind of that period where the rubber hits the road, you're doing the work, and where you kind of are a little bit like you feel like it's one step forward, two step back all the time, where you're not quite sure, is this the right time to bring on staff? Is this, is the issue the economy or my marketing or my leadership, or am I just cannot not just find good employees? And it's kind of just decoding and demystifying what's going on so that people can have more clarity about where they go.
Wow, that's extraordinary. I mean, most businesses get stuck in that
Yeah.
bit of that
And
middle muddle bit.
yeah, and look, I'm the original AI, autistic intelligence.
Oh,
So for me, seeing these patterns was really self-evident. And
right.
what I discovered, it wasn't self-evident to everyone else. So a lot of my work has been like taking what I know to be a
Yeah.
self-evident truth and putting it into language and metaphors that other people can understand. And I think the importance of this, Karen, comes from the fact that as humans, our brains are wired for our survival and for our
Yeah.
enjoyment and for our and to be of purpose.
Yeah.
And so we already know that our brains are wired for story, right?
Yeah.
And so everyone tells you when you're marketing, use story, when you communicate with people, use story, because our brains are wired to hold that in our head. But there's also another part of our brain which comes from that same period and that same evolutionary drive, and that's understanding where we are in time and space. And that's our ability to navigate to North Stars and the ability to look at the horizon and have a sense of where we are. It's our navigation part of our brain. And I think for many business owners, when they get into small business ownership, they understand the start, they understand that I'm here, and they understand where they want to go, but their ability to navigate that road because of the lack of markers or sometimes the confusing array of markers that show up means that they feel like they're drowning.
Yeah, or just the word came to mind was overwhelm as well.
Yeah, and I'll give you an example of how this can play out for a small business owner. Karen, I don't know if you know what the number one reason is that people drown in open water.
No,
Do you
actually, I
know?
don't.
Yeah, so most people assume it's because they can't swim, or it's
Is it fear?
well, it's actually fear and fatigue. They're the two
Oh,
reasons people don't get rescued quick enough. But most importantly, that fatigue is really comes in early because of fear. But it's not fear that they're going to die. It's fear that they don't know where they are. Because when you're stuck in the churn of the surf,
yeah,
knowing which way is up can be confusing. You think you're
absolutely.
heading to the surface, but you're going deeper. Sometimes when you're
Yeah.
watching the shoreline zap away from you and you're like, oh my God, how do I swim back? How do I get back? You're swimming frantically and things are not moving, but you're like, oh my God, this is too much. And
So
this is how
this,
it is for many business owners.
So this is going to lead into the first topic that we're going to talk about today, and I believe you think that's you've just led into a fear-based mentality for a lot of people, and you put it in such a beautiful story version that I really can understand when you're talking about the ways. So I want to get straight into it, if that's all right with you, because you've got so much knowledge I want to pull out from you to help people. So the first topic I've asked you to come and speak, thank you again for coming to speak today with me, is the 5 stages of business. So concepts to company.
Yeah.
So you can understand why you have these struggles you do and how to keep moving forward. Well, you just led into it with like the ocean series. So go for it, Caroline. Tell us a bit more about that and how we can
so this has come out of this work that I've been doing with people, with me realizing that people can't see the path that they're on. They don't know where they are in this stage. And I often find myself working with people and realizing that the decisions they were making were made because they didn't understand that they had actually made progress. Because the interesting thing, Karen, for most people don't realize this, is that progress rarely feels comfortable.
True. Well, how do they know when they've reached that progress though?
Yeah, so for many people, they think, oh,
when
we set a goal for ourselves. Yeah, so when we set a goal for ourselves, Karen, we think, okay, that's it. I'm going to get to a point where my employees are working really well, or I can take time out of the business, or I've met this financial goal. But really, the truth is, it's never about reaching that goal. It's about unlocking the feeling after that goal is reached. It's not about having a certain amount of money in the bank. It is about the feeling of relief that you're not living paycheck to paycheck. It's not about your staff knowing what they're doing. It's about that feeling of being able to support people in a meaningful way, and that what you're doing matters to them. And it's never about having time out of the business. It's about being able to have balance back in your life, that feeling. And so that's at the heart of what we're really chasing. So this is an important thing to know about goal setting, is it's never about the actual goal. It's about creating, curating how we want to feel. But with that, it means that when we see signposts and we're not clear and we're not sure that we're on the right path, we defer back to our feelings, and it can give us the wrong messages, because our emotions respond to our environment and our stories in our head. They're not a reflection of reality always.
So
this is where this concept came out of, this building this pathway.
Well, how do they put things in place then? And then what are the markers? So knowing that they've achieved that.
So let me talk you through the stages, the 5 stages of small business, and I can give you examples of how people trip up on their own progress and pull themselves back.
Before you do, I encourage all our listeners, like I'm about to do now, I just have my pad. Please get a pad and pen, because I'm doing it myself before Caroline dives into these magic areas, and start writing them down as she speaks. And you can always come back to the recording. And if you're driving and you're listening to this podcast or watching this video, you can come back. But if you are sitting and listening, I encourage you, like I'm doing, is about to take notes. So over to you, Caroline. Let's go.
So let's start at the very beginning. The first step is called the idea. So this is when you have that moment where you go, you know what? I think I could go out on my own. Or you go, that would make a brilliant business idea. Or someone says, we should go into business together. And you're like, maybe we should. It's that moment where you think about the idea of having a business. Now, the reality is, it is something that just about every adult will experience in their adult life. So just about every human adult goes into stage 1 of starting a business at some point in their adult life. And so if you've ever been at a barbecue and someone says to you, what do you do? And you go, oh, I've got a startup business, or I'm self-employed. And they say, you know what, I thought about going out once on my own. Now you can recognize that they had gone into stage 1 at some point in their life.
True.
Now, the power of stage 1 is that this is the moment in which your business is its most perfect, its most impactful, its most organized, its most profitable, because it's entirely in your head. It is in the dream phase. And that's the power of our imagination, is we can imagine the unimaginable. And it's this moment, this is the seeds that is going to drive us forward through the rest of our journey. It's the roadmap, it's the vision of where we're going. It's the end destination we're trying to achieve.
But some people
Now,
never get off the ground from number one.
yeah, they don't, because the vision never takes hold.
And why is that?
Because for a number of reasons, because it was never their idea in the first place, because actually it was trying to escape something rather than to move towards something.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's because circumstances change. There's a lot of reasons why. And for some people, they just like the idea of imagining they could be better than other people. They just will never take action to do it. And there's a lot of people who'll sit there as observers in the world, as, you know, the people sitting in the cheap seats, always there with feedback, but
Yeah.
never actually putting themselves, dipping their toe in the water. So when we think about this as part of the population, it's the equivalent of the percentage of population that will submerge themselves in water at some point in their life, whether it be a bathtub, a spa, a pool, or the ocean or a river. Pretty much close to 100% of the adult population will at some point have sat in water at some stage.
Yeah.
And look, the reason why I'm using the swimming analogies, Karen, for those that don't know, my kids are competitive swimmers. I have a son who has represented New Zealand as an aqua black. I have a daughter who's a surf lifesaver and a national medalist for Mount Maunganui, and a daughter who's over here in Perth swimming for Western Sprints, and she's trialing to get her national times. So
a lot of
I have
competitiveness
been,
in your family.
yeah, and look, more importantly, I've been in that space for a long time. So it's a really strong analogy I can draw from.
Yeah.
And something any parent who's got kids in sport, whether it's swimming or footy or basketball, can recognize the parallels.
And each of us as individuals at some stage of our life, whether we're growing up or as adults, have played sport, watched sport, follow the Olympics. So I think it's a great analogy.
Yeah. So the second stage, moving on our journey,
Number
is,
two.
yes, is the concept. So this is where we start trialing out how this could look. How could we put this together? Now, this can happen in a variety of ways, Karen. This could be when we start to look at loans to purchase an existing business, where we could look for investors, we could look for business partners, we could start a podcast, we could, start an online side hustle, we could start an Instagram account. There's a variety of ways in which this could be tested out, and it's the phase in which you really know you're in this phase when you are completely obsessed with this business. Like, it is your waking thought 24/7. You're always thinking, oh, that would be a great idea. Oh, yes, I need to do that. Oh my gosh, I need to contact that. Oh my God, yes, this is going to happen. Oh, I've got to be careful of this. Where do I get this information? Who do I get this from? How do I do it? And this is kind of your every waking hour is obsessed with this business. But if you ask anyone observing you, they would say things like, yeah, I heard that she was thinking of starting a business, but I'm not sure what's happening. Or, oh yeah, she has this Instagram thing as well. I've seen it, it's real good. But for them, it's kind of like, is this happening? Like, it's a maybe. It's a kind of, oh yeah, I heard them talking about it. Or
So they don't see the outsider, the friend or family, doesn't see that this is a real business that someone's pursuing. It's more like a hobby or an interest.
yes. And this can be a real frustration, particularly for women, because they are so caught up in this idea, but no one around them sees the energy, that's particularly the mental energy they're putting into getting this off the ground.
How do they get the support then if they need? I guess they need support, and they sometimes need that encouragement to go, you're on the right track. Or
yeah, look, men are better at this, at being their own cheerleader and putting themselves out there. Women, because of the way societal shame is structured for women, and Brene Brown is very good at unpacking this. So if you want to know more about that, definitely have a look at that. But she talks about how for women it's about, stepping out beside what people expect of you, to being seen to be asking for help, to be seen to be not effortless, not graceful, not just like a duck gliding along the water. No one wants to see how fast you're paddling. You've got to look like you've got it together the whole time. And you certainly don't say things like, you know what, I'm amazing. Because, when a man says that, they go, oh, yes, he's full of himself. But I suppose when a woman says that, they're like, okay, that makes me uncomfortable. Like it will physically make people uncomfortable when women say that. So there's a lot of societal shame
Sure is.
around that, around reaching out. So and this is where supporting women with micro enterprises and startups is so important, because they're less likely to reach out for that community support at this stage, because it's hard to justify something that you're so passionate about, but you have no concrete evidence of its efficacy yet. Yeah.
I guess when I see business women come up with ideas, the passion's there, they're bouncing off of ideas to make sure they're on the right track and they're not going to fail. But also, I think Brene Brown's really good on vulnerability, and it's actually stepping out of your comfort zone to go, I'm going to give this a go and let's get it going.
Yeah. So that's basically stage 2.
So that's
Now,
the
for many,
concept. Yep.
yeah, the concept, for many people, these two can happen really quickly
Yep.
and almost simultaneously. For other people, they're quite drawn out periods. And sometimes they sit on the idea for a long time before they take action. And other times they can have an idea, take action on it, but sit in that developing the concept stage. And people who are coaches and support people, they spend a long time in this phase, and it's really critical for their business because it's about understanding their unique way in which they serve others. So particularly if you're service-based, it's quite usual to spend quite a bit of time in this space.
Is there a time limit that you see people
No,
spend in
no,
there?
there's no time limit, because the thing about all these stages, and this is I suppose, the fallacy that people think, is that although there's certain markers to know when you're in each stage, even though it has its positive side, it also has its absolute negative side and can cause us to spin out. But everything has a purposeful order. So
Okay.
you cannot fast track the process. The process is the process. The important thing is to know where you are on
Yeah,
that
true.
process. So it's not about the speed, it's about honoring where you are at that moment. Because if you take 10 years in stage 2 and someone else flies through that in 3 weeks, it's about recognizing that that's what your business needs. That's
Yes.
what you need as the chrysalis of your business. It needs to take 10 years.
We're
Yeah.
all different, and life throws curveballs. You've got families, some are empty nesters. So I guess at the stages and the process depends on where that person is in their life cycle as well.
Yeah. So the next stage is so at stage 2, that is, let's go back to this swimming analogy. That's about 45% of the people of the 100% who have the idea of having business, about 45% will follow through.
Okay.
And they'll start doing some work. And that's about the equivalent. Interestingly, I looked it up on Statistics Australia, and it was said 44% of adults said that they could swim 100 meters. They'd learnt to swim 100 meters. So not the same of people that learn to swim as to the people that start that concept stage. So when we move to the next stage, stage 3, this is where the rubber hits the road. This is where you actually have a business that's making you money, that you're earning. And this is called the origin. Okay. So this is where the main stage, this is the biggest catch-all for businesses. Some businesses will stay here the entire existence as a business. For other people, it could be quite a short period, and this is where you're basically self-employed. And according to Statistics Australia, again, 13% of the population are self-employed, which is about the same number of people that go on to competitive swimming.
So when you say 13% are self-employed, are you talking Australia? Are you talking globally?
Australia, yes, Statistics Australia.
Yeah, Australia.
Yeah, and for me, discovering that number, that commonality between the number of people who go into high competitive swimming and the number of people who get into stage 3, basically become self-employed, the fact that they're so close together allowed me to have this moment of clarity. If you own a business and you're running it full time and it's supporting you, even by the absolute
the budget.
dubiously, even if you are earning money off your business, even if it's just a little bit of extra pocket money, you need to start seeing yourself as a high performer, because you're 13% of the population. You are in the top 10%.
It's staggering that 13% only in Australia are self-employed.
Yeah.
When you hear everyone starting up businesses, it feels like in our state there's like about 30% of people self-employed.
Yeah, but why do you think it feels like there's more people who have their own business?
Because they're in stage 1.
Well, no, it's
Maybe?
because if you're a high performer, guess who you hang out with?
Well, high
Other high
performance.
performers.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
So if you're a competitive swimmer, guess who the bulk of your friends
Yeah,
are?
of
Competitive
course.
swimmers. And so it's actually a fallacy that when you say, oh no, much more people must be doing it, it's actually because they're not. It's just that you're in the group of people who are.
So I actually reckon also, this is just my opinion, that based on the stage you've shared, that most people, why it feels like 13% is low is because most people are sitting in 1 and 2. One, you've heard the conversations on a business. Two, they've basically got a side hustle, but it's not paying, becoming a
Yeah.
high performing business at stage 3. Am I
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so the businesses in stage 3, I don't want people to think that their business has to be high performing. Their business could be living paycheck to paycheck or invoice to invoice.
Are they
You can
behind
have
still, or are they ahead in this stage? Or they're
at this
just breaking
stage,
even?
is defined by the fact that they are serving clients and that is their main job.
Right. So they're not necessarily profitable yet.
They can be and they may not be.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So there
they
could be
could have
either
just
or.
it doesn't
Gotcha.
matter. Profitability doesn't affect it. And also the number of employees don't affect it and the scale of your business.
Wow.
But because there's plenty of people in stage 3 who have 20 employees. There's plenty of people in stage 3 who have more than one site. But the key thing about stage 3 is that this is where you hear yourself saying, people say, who's your target market? Oh, anyone really who needs plumbing services. Or anyone who needs a health coach. If you're
Yeah.
feeling tired, anyone who feels tired. And you are at that stage where you know you're stage 3 because you're like, I serve everyone. And
Yeah.
you are doing most of the work. You're usually the biggest earner in the business. Or if you're not, you keep going back to being the biggest earner. So you might have staff doing it for a while, but they leave. You have to go
Yeah.
back. You have to fill that gap. And so the big thing about stage 3 is you notice it when people are massive swings in the number of employees,
Yeah.
massive swings in the number of sites, massive swings in their profitability and their cash flow.
Would they get burnout at this stage? Do most of them?
Yeah, most people get burnt out at all stages.
I would have
and it's
thought, so far I haven't
and
heard the rest, but so far you're just pinpointing this cycle of where a person would hit a burnout stage then mostly,
yeah,
would they?
well, they burn out in stage 2 as well. That's why only 13% go on to be self-employed, as
Oh,
opposed to the 44% who initially start taking actions to
yeah.
build a business. And the reason for this is because they don't notice that they are high performers and they don't treat themselves with that reverence and they don't treat themselves with that discipline
Can
and
I?
that, yeah,
Sorry, before I forget this one, don't mean to interject you, but how
yeah.
do you define a high performer? I mean,
Hmm.
what is a high performer?
So let me give you an example. So a high performer is someone who performs above average in a specialty.
Okay.
So you are a, a high performer in the world of work. Okay. So if you're an employee, you can just leave after 40 hours and go home. You can leave that job at any time. If it becomes too much, you can tap out, you can quit, you've got options,
Yeah.
and the limiting factor is you're only able to earn as much as someone's prepared to pay you
Yeah.
and what the market asks of you. So there is limits to this, but you're never putting yourself up against that grindstone. You're never pushing your limits. You're never seeing what you're truly capable of.
Gotcha.
The minute you become a business owner,
Whew.
you notice that life gets tough.
Yeah.
Things get hard. And it's actually in those moments we talked right at the beginning about progress not feeling fun or great.
Yeah.
It's those moments is where your true progress goes. So what I mean by a high performer, it's someone who constantly puts themselves in a state of stretch.
Yep.
Sometimes we overestimate and end up in a state of panic, but most of us are in a state of stretch. And we, as humans who don't recognize we're in high performance and don't recognize the stage of business we are, this is where we're in the surf tumbling and we can't see which way's up and we panic.
Stage 3.
Or at any stage with high performance mindset, we struggle,
Okay.
because what if we don't know that we're actually capable, that we're actually in high performance and that we're in a stretch state, because it doesn't feel comfortable, we think we're failing.
Yeah, true. I'm just looking back at the other two. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
So we're running our own race. This is an important thing to remember as well. We're running our own race. And the minute we compare against other people, we end up struggling, because we see them succeeding, but we only see them at the finish line. We don't see the hours and hours and hours and hours of work of training and the hundreds of races where they've not made a podium finish.
yeah.
We don't see the self-talk, the discipline, the routines that they've had to establish to make that happen. So it's about taking yourself seriously. So even at stage 3, when your staff are leaving, when you've got client complaints, when you're facing financial difficulties, you are still on a pathway to success if you choose to see these as obstacles to overcome,
And
as
challenges are part
redirections
of
on
the
the right path.
growth.
Challenge and really the solutions you're looking for,
Yeah,
because
but that's part of growing yourself and your business is if you accept the challenges and move past. But
Yeah, and so stage 3 is quite a big stage. So it's actually, each of these stages has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So
yeah.
I will just dive a bit deeper into stage 3 because it's the biggest one. So the beginning of stage 3 is a moment when you are like, look, I'm doing it. I'm running a
Oh,
business,
yeah.
and you feel really positive and speak to you about, oh yeah, it's amazing. I've got this new client, and I'm going so well. I think I might take on a staff member, and your business feels really good, and that is because you've not yet had a tax bill. You've not yet had a customer complaint. You've not yet had to deal with difficult staff. So
Or a staff
everything,
leaving who is
yes,
critical to your business.
yes. So everything you're experiencing is really positive. There doesn't seem to be a downside to
Yeah.
running a business. You've got money, you've got the balance you need, you're working, doing great work, but so everything feels positive. The middle of stage 3 is the messiest bit.
Yeah.
This is where you feel like you're under fire. You're like, oh my God, give me a break. Why can't I catch a break? And I had a client quite eloquently describe it as feeling like an octopus, where everyone was needing something from you
Yeah.
and you just couldn't get away. And someone else described it as carrying around a backpack of hidden responsibility that no one else could see, that's weighing you down. But it's really that stage where it's the toughest stage because you've got the least amount of experience, the least amount of training. You may not even have a team together to support you. And what I mean by team is I mean like an accountant, a lawyer, a business coach, a HR person.
Yeah.
You don't have a team of support around you. You are the most vulnerable. You are the most vulnerable to the currents of how things are going.
Mm.
But this moment is a really important moment to go through because in doing this, in pushing yourself to the limits of what you think you're capable of doing and potentially even going beyond that, you have this moment where you go, that's it. I'm just going to focus on this. I'm just going to do these clients, or I'm just going to offer these services, or I'm just going to employ this sort of person.
Yeah.
And it's in those moments because as humans, we're really good at finding the road of least resistance. And you find what works for you and you shake everything out. So going back to stage 1, when you had this amazing vision, I would do all these things, and you start doing all those things, you realize actually all those things do not bring me joy. All those things do not serve me and the people around me. And you just end up going, I'm just going to do this.
I wonder in stage 3 where this is where most businesses fail, where the stats come into
Yeah.
play.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. This is my observation, and this is not an academic thing, but it's my observation as to why. It's because, remember right at the big early start of stage 3? So up in stage one, 2, and the start of stage 3 have all been super positive. And when you've started out on your own, you had all these successes and no obvious downside.
Yeah.
And people go, you know what? I think I'll just go back working by myself because it was easier then. I'll just go back to playing small because it was easier then.
Yeah.
And what they don't recognize is that they can never go back to that moment because it wasn't the fact that they were small or working by themselves or only doing a certain amount of work. It was their ignorant bliss that brought them that feeling of joy because they didn't know any better. And you can never unsee things. You can never unsee the life in the trenches. All you can do is learn to be stronger so that it doesn't affect you so much. And what I mean by that, I don't mean toughen up, take a pill, concrete pill. What I mean is learn to expand yourself so that you have the capacity to deal with things with ease.
But I also think, this is just my personal opinion, that some people should not be in business anyway. They don't have the mental capacity. They've got an idea, but they don't have that internal fortitude to actually go through the challenges and struggles, but also run a business. Because some of us are meant to be business owners, some of us meant to be Indians, chiefs and Indians, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I use an analogy.
Yeah. And look, for everyone, being a business owner is a learning journey.
Yep.
For some people, that starting point is a lot further back because, like you said, they're naturally followers. And
Yep.
for others, they're naturally further ahead because they're natural leaders. But it's a learned skill, and it's a resilient skill. And the issue is, Karen, that a lot of people don't seek help.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Is that they actually, I don't know if it's pride, ego, or what it is they don't go, hey, Caroline, I'm really struggling. I need help. What do I need to do? They sit there and they give up. But they're giving up on themselves and their idea that was probably a really good idea, but they don't read, they don't listen. I mean, take a podcast like this one, they're not hearing, I'm in that stage. I really need help.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Well, let's go back to the sporting analogy. If we're all competitive swimmers, why do some people not enjoy the process? Why are some people not cut out for it? There's some people, because some people are not prepared to have a growth mindset and will not take instruction from a coach.
Yes.
So they go out and do it on their own. And they can only do what they know. They don't have anyone giving them feedback on what they can't see.
Yeah, and bringing new skills into,
because they've got this thing that have to be in control. And they can't let go of that. So no matter what their natural gifts are, they will never move on to the next stage. Because they're limited by their own perspective.
That's a real shame, because whether it's sporting or other business areas, it could have been a really good idea or, taken off well, but their own limiting mindset is not allowing them or allowing them to seek out ways to get help.
Yeah. And the next type of people is the ones we see where the parents are actually the coach.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that are overstepping the bounds and telling them what to do. Push. And this is the equivalent of people who get what I like to call barstool advice. They're the people, barstool advice. They're the people that go to the pub on Friday and say to their mate, hey, how do you deal with difficult employees?
Yeah.
And they get that barstool advice. And so their full potential is capped because the advice they get has no context. It isn't specific for their needs and it's all based on what other people are doing. So that's the issue with parent coaching, is that they look at other kids and get angry, disappointed, frustrated with their child because they're not doing what other kids do. Because they're only focused on the one, they're not focused as part of a pathway.
Yep.
So there's a lot of factors that lead to it, but at the heart of it, they're all mindset factors. I mean, with the work you do, Karen, you must recognize that the biggest reason that people can't get their financial things in order comes from the way their relationship with money.
Absolutely. As much as we don't like using this word, and a few people said, don't use that word because people it's like poo-pooing. It's mindset. Yes. It's like, it's conditioning, it's financial conditioning, it's the way the brain was wired, what you heard, as we all know, what your background was, and it's pushing past that, and coach people to break that ceiling so they can actually excel in their chosen path.
Yeah, and it's recognizing that not everyone's ready for that journey right now.
Exactly.
So for some people, and I always have this conversation with people, do you want to go on this journey of self-discovery, of high performance, of discovering beyond what you think you're capable of? Or do you just enjoy doing this activity? If so, go and be an employee. Well, you don't have to push yourself. You just have to do what you're paid to do, and you only do what you want to do.
That is a hard pill to swallow, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, and even that takes self-reflection. Sometimes the choice ends up getting made for them, and their business fails because it becomes energetically undeniable that they are better suited as an employee.
Do you know, one of my biggest frustrations, and I hope I don't offend anyone who listens to this, but it's a fact. I should speak it as it is. My biggest frustration is that people don't listen to some really good quality advice and information to support them in their business growth, whether it's building better teams, building better systems like you do, and helping high performance people achieve their goals, or whether it's in my area where people just don't listen to strategies and tips on how to manage their business. And next thing you know, they've just got themselves way above their head and they're having to actually unwind that. I find it so frustrating is that people don't have the courage, and I don't know what that is in their mindset. And I know it's a part of the growth mindset, but I find it frustrating that people just don't become what Brene Brown talks about, being vulnerable and saying, Caroline, I'm really struggling with this. Can you help me, please? I know we're digressing, but I really want to help people and understand why is it and how can they push past that to get the help they need to do the business they really love and got into to do.
Yeah. And that's a good question. It's like the $1 million question, Karen. But I'll share you through my observations of working with clients. And often it's because it is uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable to be vulnerable. It is uncomfortable to push yourself. It is uncomfortable to try new things. It's uncomfortable to take instruction. It's uncomfortable to realize you don't know everything, that you're not right. It's uncomfortable to realize that you actually have far less control than you ever imagined possible.
I think control is the big one we've talked about. And hence why there's only 13% of self-employed people, because they're the ones that have the courage to stop, listen, get the help they need, get a mentor, get a coach, and become the student while they're growing their business.
Yeah, so it is stage 3 is the stage where people, you know, this is where they realize that it's not just a doing game, it's a thinking game. And not everyone will be able to make it to the next step. Some people will do enough just to stay there, and people say, I've been in business 20 years. And I'm like, have you? Or have you just been in 1 year of business 20 times? You know, and it's like really starting, you know, some people stay there and it suits them. It suits them because they're in their comfort zone. They get to that point and they naturally are, like you said, that's where they want to sit, and that they sit in their comfort zone and stay there. So let's move to stage 4.
Please. What is it?
So stage 4 is called the zone. And the catalyst to move to stage 4 is when you are able to identify your unique selling point, like your unique way in which you deliver, or what is it special about you. So we go from I serve everyone to I serve these people, or I help them solve these problems in this way, when you have that absolute clarity around what you do.
Yep.
Now, let's talk numbers. So interestingly, I had this number verified for me from a marketing expert. And so in high performance, this is the equivalent of making the national team. Okay, so that's 3% of the population.
No way.
Could ever get to a national team level. Okay. But it's also the same number as people that, according to this marketing expert I spoke to, have that unique selling point, that clarity in their business around what is it uniquely that they do.
It just seems so low.
3%, yeah. But remember, it's 3% of the population. It's not 3% of the 13% that become business owners.
Okay, so of the population, right?
Yeah. So if you go to a business owner, if you're going to a room where there's 100% business owners, that percentage becomes a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason why this is so important, because once you understand what you do, you can then make your sales process completely repeatable.
Yep.
And you can now take complete control of your ability to drive and manage revenue into your business. So now you can employ people, and they don't need to be as good as you, because that's what they needed to be in stage 3, because you just serve everyone. So you don't know who's coming into your business as a client, but you can serve everyone because you're technically that good. You need to find employees that are just as good as you to be able to serve that suite of clients.
Yep.
When it comes to stage 4, you recognize this is what we do. So I just need to train them to do this, my secret sauce.
Yep.
And then beyond that, there's a pathway. And this means that you can take someone who is at the industry minimum standard and make them to your minimum standard, and i.e. profitable, really quickly. You can create literally a process to do that.
This
So
is where most businesses then excel and become a true business in revenue. When I look at numbers, in revenue base, in the way they feel about their business.
Yeah, they have way more control over revenue. So
Yeah.
this is where a real weight suddenly comes off their shoulders, is because they can manage it. They have ability to affect change. So the economy goes down and they get some cancellations. They now have a way to solve this.
Yeah.
An employee leaves, they have a way to fill that gap.
Yep.
They're not having to step back into the void again and again and again, or scale the business back to accommodate someone else leaving the business. And this is the point where often they'll get their second sight, or they will really start to scale significantly. And this is a very exciting time. But interestingly, in stage 3, when you had a really mentally positive time, a tough time, and then another mentally positive time. So you had one tough time bookended by 2 positive times in stage 3. Stage 4 is the opposite. So you spend more time, actually, even though things are going better, you spend more time fighting with your own mindset.
Really?
Yeah. Because early stage 4 is you've come out of this moment where, all right, I'm just going to focus on this. I'm just going to do this. And when you say that, things start to fall into place and you start to have some success and some calm.
Yep.
So that moves you into early stage 4. But what ends up happening is you have these disasters. So you have this long-term client leaves all of a sudden, or because things have just changed, or that employee who've had since day one, who you thought was your best friend, suddenly leaves.
Which I saw in a business is that they had this 80% of their money's come from one big client, and they were in stage 4 from the way you've described it. All of a sudden, that big client left, then they were in a seat of turmoil because they had their systems and process, but they had to replace that big income producer that was bringing in a lot of the bulk of their business for them.
Yeah, and for some people, it doesn't even need to be a massive financial shift. It's just that whole kick in the guts. That person who's been loyal to you for the last 10 years suddenly is not loyal anymore, and they just leave. And at this point, many people panic and they go, oh, I've made a mistake only focusing on these people or only delivering these services. And guess where they go? Back to stage 3.
Oh my goodness. They don't really, do they?
Yes, they do. They jump back into stage 3 and go, no, sorry, we've made a mistake. We're going back to serving everyone again.
God, okay.
We haven't got this right. But really what's happening here is that you have become really clear about what you want to do, and things that are not serving you disappear. And things that used to serve you may no longer do that, and it disappears, and you're not emotionally ready for that detachment, but it happens. So that client leaving, when you look at it, oh, you know what? I was having to do something special for them that I don't do for any of my other clients. Probably should leave and let me just focus on what I do.
That client said, when I stopped and realized it hurt me for 3 months while I built up my business, I went back to what you shared. Then they went back to stage 4 again, going, no, this is the focus. They identified that big client really wasn't their sweet spot anymore. I mean, they took them 3 months to identify that, and they were going through some financial pain.
Yeah.
And they were building their business as well with staff. So that's really interesting that it sort of refines where their business model or where their unique selling point is.
And you can have that employee that's been with you right from the beginning, has been your right-hand man, and you actually like see them as a son or a brother, but actually they suddenly leave when you get clear. And the reason for that is because their journey as an employee is they want to work in a space where they work allied to a single person, and that's the perfect employment space for them. They love that closeness. But what they're recognizing is there's a shift now. You're going to bring more employees in. They're not going to be that golden employee anymore. They're going to be part of a bigger group.
Yeah.
And that's not why they actually go to work. And so they're self-selecting out. They're going, I've loved the journey up until now, but I see where you're going in the future. I see that you're going to get bigger, and that's not for me. I'm going to leave and go to someone who just wants a one-on-one situation. And that's the reality, because what you'll recognize is that just as your business evolves, so does your team. The
Yep.
people who were perfect for your business at the start are unlikely to carry on that journey with you the whole way, because not everyone wants what you're delivering. And it's important that at this stage, we don't take on the opinion of others. Because if we do, particularly our staff, particularly our long-term trusted staff, that no, I don't think you should do that, because they don't want to have to just focus on that. They don't want to have to be part of a bigger team. We then, if we take on their opinions without holding true to what we know is right, we allow their limitations to become our business's limitations.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Very
that's a
good.
really, really tough thing to recognize. Yeah.
So if number 4 is the zone, don't hold me suspense. What is number 5?
The 5 is the order.
The
So
what? The order.
the order. So it's for 2 reasons called the order. It's firstly called the order because it's when things start to fall into order, but it's also the point where you shift from the person doing the work in your business, the person managing your business, to the person who's leading it.
And that's ultimately where we all want to get, right?
Yeah, and it's all about making you repeatable. So they have to become your disciples through systems and through leadership.
Yeah.
And so you literally have to become the cult leader of your business.
So I guess this is a stage where if you're growing a good sized business, you want to make sure that the business is not totally reliant on you. And at this stage of the order, number 5 means that if you go on holidays or for extended period, you're out of the business for whatever reason, you have the systems, the people and everything in place
Yeah.
for it to run
Yes,
smoothly.
yes, it's exactly right. So in stage 4, we get systems and processes, but they're all usually around the sales process.
Yeah.
It's about all of focused on the client journey. It's about revenue generation. And you are often in the back of house running all these teams, dealing with all the customer things. You're often doing a lot of the back of house work, because now there's a back house being created because of the scale of the front of the house.
Sure.
And so stage 5 is really about building out that back of house. It's about putting in leadership teams. It's about bringing in more capability around HR, whether that's through changing your engagement relationship with your HR company or even bring it in-house. Same with marketing. It has to become more focused, more scaled. It's things like, all that stuff. It's all that strategic stuff. There's a lot more work for you to do in the strategic space. And yeah, so that's kind of really where you are. And this is the point where many people go. They get so close to the finish line and then they recognize, oh my God, there's a whole nother body of work I have to do now. I've got the sales process, but now I actually have to build the leadership teams. I now have to put in place all the back of house stuff. And it's like, I think I might tap out here.
No?
So many people do, because they realize that
Wow.
they think that they're so close to the finish line, but they realize that they've still got a whole lot of work to go.
So
So
when you say tap out, what do?
they sell to a business, they sell to an employee,
Right.
because the business is profitable, yes,
Yep.
but it's not free of their dependency on them.
Yep.
So they realize there's a whole nother body of work to happen to make that happen.
So
Now, if
they did that work, then they would become more independent and
yeah,
a little bit
and
freer.
yeah, and the reality is it's 1%. 1% make it to stage 5.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And about 0.3% ever make it to final stage 5, which is when you have that freedom in your business. So it's very, very few people who make it. So it is okay to tap out, to go, I'm not ready to do that next body of work. I'm too old, I'm too burnt out, I'm too whatever. That is okay, but now if you ever start again, you now know the process to get you to early stage 5 quickly. And the other thing is, it's a process. So often a lot of the work that I do is starting to build some of those systems in late stage 3 and stage 4, so that by the time they get to stage 5, it might take them longer to get there. But when they do, they move through it really quickly, because actually a lot of the work's already done.
Yeah.
And this is, if you've ever had anyone go, what is the number one secret to making your business sustainable and not dependent on you? You'll hear, oh, standard operating procedures. You've got to have systems. That's the answer, right?
Right.
You often hear that.
Yes.
But what doesn't come in that answer is any context. Is that I've had to go through a business and go from that idea through concept, through the messy middle,
Yeah.
and then finally get a business with such clarity that I can now systemize it. And when that happens, that was when I felt that freedom. That's what this part of the story they're not telling you.
Yeah.
Is yes, systems will be the part that sets you free, but it doesn't happen without going through that journey first.
All the
And
messy
so
stuff
many,
before.
yeah, and I see so many people sitting in late stage 2 or stage 3 going, right, someone's told me systems, that's it, let's put systems in place. I'm like, you don't even know what you do. What the hell are you systemizing?
So true.
You know,
You're going to waste all that time and
it's just
energy.
extra work that no one's going to follow, not even them, big, and it's just this body of work that's unnecessary and makes them feel like they're failing because it's of no value.
So
There's a lot
all
of stress.
these stages you've been through numerous
Mm.
times in various businesses that you've set
Yes,
up.
and even in my own businesses, yeah. So
Yeah.
this is just me, like I said, I'm AI, autistic intelligence. I'm very good at pattern recognition.
Yeah.
And so I see this, and then so I go back and say, okay, if I'm seeing this, why might this be happening? And then I look at, and often it comes down to anthropological psychology. I'm really into that, like how the human brain is wired for success and wired for evolution and adaptability. And there is a big overlap between the way we operate as business owners, as high performers, as societies that needed to evolve, grow, and develop. So there is a massive overlap in that journey. And the more you can tap into understanding how the brain is wired to go through this, the more it makes that journey more, you can do it with ease.
Wow.
So it never makes the journey easy. It just makes it easy to come to terms with. And it's just letting
Mind-blowing.
go of that control and having that compass. I'm here. This is where I am. This is what I need to focus on right now. My next stage is here. So what do I need to prepare to make that stage successful?
I've actually never heard of the process is brilliant, I've got to say, because I hear business coaches talk with business owners and they don't even understand themselves where sometimes, and that's no disrespect to some business coaches, but they haven't really identified where that person is in a stage so they can actually help them.
Yeah.
So tell me, where, so now for those that are listening and they're going, oh my God, Caroline, I'm at stage such and such, or I'm at such and such. Where is your sweet spot? Where do you really go in and work with a business? Is there a
Yeah.
stage in particular that you focus on?
So I hit where most business coaches hit, which is stage 3, from early stage 3 all the way to early stage 5.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my sweet spot. And it's really the bulk of the business work. And I think the thing that makes the work I do for my clients so successful is because this is built from grassroots. This is built from my own experience as a small business owner, from supporting and working with my friends who are also small business owners. And yes, I've got the business experience and knowledge from a corporate space. I started out in corporate working in logistics and organizational development,
Yeah.
but I've been able to, just out of really understanding the unique environment of small businesses, that they are just not the same. And
No.
I'll give you a perfect example of how they're not the same is things like the fact that you are working with people who are your parents, your children, your brothers. You went to university with them. You went to TAFE with them. You have known them for years, babysat your children. They're your wife's friends. They're your mate's friends. You have such complex relationship with them. That is not the case in a corporate space. In a corporate space, they're employees that you've hired, you've never
Yeah.
seen before, and you have no relationship with them outside of work. It's really easy to be detached. It's
True.
really easy to be tough and to make, calls that are objective.
Yep.
And other people view that as you doing that. But when you're telling your mate that this is my expectation is this, they can go, stop being a dick. I've seen what you used to be like. Don't tell me that shit. And it's really hard it's a much tougher social space to navigate. And the other thing is, in a corporate space, there is the fact that they have money and scale to support their existence. So even when we look at things like health and safety. So if someone does a near miss and they file it and they follow the process, in a corporate space, there's someone there whose job is to deal with health and safety every single day.
Yep.
So it gets dealt with properly. When you have so much going on, best intentions in the world, how do you know to go and check a near miss report if no one's told you about it? You never get round to it because you already know that important things on your to-do list don't get done, let alone necessary or routine things. So this is where I really work with small business owners to encourage them to not only build systems into their business to make things repeatable, make things less dependent on them, but also at the heart of it, to support them, because they are the golden goose in their business. They need to be protected, and everyone's job needs to be making your life easier and not work free, but just take some of that mental load from you. So even in that health and safety example, even putting an extra step in there, like that person who's lodged it now has to book a 15-minute meeting with you the next day or within the next 48 hours to discuss that incident. Just that simple thing means that it doesn't fall through the cracks.
No, very true.
And so I think, if you've got a business coach who's got all the quals, got, MBA and this and that, you're getting a drip-fed MBA. That's what you're paying for. But is it always fit for purpose? And it's really understanding the unique needs of small business owners. They are much tougher. They are the grassroots, the provincial. This is the space in which legends are made.
Absolutely.
But dreams are broken. So it needs someone who gets that space. And, one of the things I share this IP is because more people who use it and understand it, the more success and support other people get.
Yeah. That is mind-blowing. Absolutely. I know where I'm in my stage. And so it's interesting to see that some of those pain points is where I am at that stage and pushing through the challenges, because I do have a tough mindset. But I can understand when people don't have it and when they're stuck in a particular stage. And I'm really good at asking for help, but I guess a lot of people aren't. So it's a matter of the key takeaway is getting the support and help from qualified people who've been there and done it. That's my first takeaway, not from people who, and no disrespect to others, are spruiking stuff, but never really lived in the trenches. Because I think when you've lived in the trench and you've grown businesses, you do understand, or you've been around people and worked in businesses, you understand it better. So you know to help. So Caroline, that is fantastic.
Yep.
Now, if anyone listening here wants to get more information, can you please share? I'm going to put in the show notes, but can you just, in case someone's driving, they go, geez, I need to find out more this lady.
Yes.
Where do I find you?
My website is teamworkswithcaroline.com. I'm not an AU, I'm just a .com.
Easy to remember.
And so I have a leadership course coming out, which is a live group course.
Yep.
It's 12 weeks. It's really intensive. It's designed for people who lead small teams, which they are part of that community. So community groups, as well as, it's particularly for small business owners who have that complex relationship. So it's like the deep dive.
Wow.
Come away from that and you'll feel a complete transformation in your leadership space. But yeah, and I've got a book on this specific topic coming out in the end of September. So keep an eye out for that on, the usual Kindle, Audible and Amazon. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. I can't wait. I'll be the first one to buy it, tell you.
Thank you.
Caroline, I want to thank you so much for your time today. And listeners, we are going to get Caroline back because, as you can tell, she's got a wealth of knowledge that we just have to get out there and share. And I do encourage you to look at Teamworks for Caroline.
Yeah.
Teamworkswithcaroline.com. Again, it's going to be show notes and links below that you can actually find this information and deal direct with Caroline and look at her resources and work with her, because she's a powerhouse resource that I encourage every small business owners to get in touch with. So thank you again, Caroline.
That's my absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming on. I just am really passionate about this. I love to talk about my specialist subject.
I love it. I love it.
Like all autistic people.
No,
I'm never going to turn you down.
No, that's awesome. And now, listeners, I want to say thank you again for listening, and do subscribe, like this podcast, and share it with a friend or a business owner who may feel value from this special podcast that we've had with Caroline. Stay tuned, there will be more coming up from Caroline. But to do that, you need to subscribe and you need to like so you can get updates as they come through. That's a wrap from me today. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.